So this program is built on squatting, lots and lots of squatting. So we wanted to show you really quickly just some of the fundamentals that will hopefully help you get into better positions to get more out of the exercise. And Kim is right now in the bottom position of squat, and you can see that her feet are basically parallel, maybe a slight toe out, which is okay. You may end up having to toe out a little bit more than that, but try not to go too much. A lot of times if your ankles are stiff, the body's response is to toe out even more to try to find that range of motion. But instead of doing that, if you find yourself when you're squatting that you're not able to stay on your heels, we're going to show you one correction for that right now. What you would do is you can use, if you're using a yoga mat, you can stand up for 1 second, is just roll up the mat a little bit so that you create a little bit of lift for your heels, and then you can go ahead and set back up, and then just place your heels on the mat. So Kim didn't really need much of a lift at all, really, actually, but if you do, this can be helpful. So instead of doing your squats where you're just coming down on your toes and letting your knees shift forward and doing all that stuff, try this instead. You can also use, like, if you have like weight plates or something else that gives you like a ½ inch or so of a lift, that can be helpful for preventing that. And then you don't want to do that forever, so we do want to address some of the movement restriction in your ankle, because you don't want to rely on crutches like that for forever. But for the duration of this program, I think it's fine, and you should just go ahead and do that. So let's just show them from the beginning how to properly squat. So go ahead and stand up. So Kim has her feet shoulder-ish distance, maybe a little bit wider than, which is totally fine. The more stiff your hips are, the more stiff your body is as a whole, the wider, having a wider stance will help you. So don't be afraid to go out kind of wide. Her feet are basically parallel. You can turn your toes out just a little bit, but try not to have too much toe out. You can create more torque and more leverage in your hip with your feet parallel. So you want to kind of think just like you would when you're doing a plank or a push-up. Your hands are on the ground, you want to screw your hands into the floor. You do the same thing with your feet. So you kind of grip and rip the floor, try to turn your feet out a little bit without actually turning them out. And then think, instead of thinking sitting down and having your knees travel forward, think sit back. So go ahead and sit back, Kim. So Kim's pushing your hips back, and then her knees break. So let's show one more time. So stand up, turn to the side, show them from the side, so the side view. So she's going to take the same stance, and you'll see the first thing that moves when she starts to squat is her hips go back, then her knees break. And then she sinks down, her butt is below parallel, so the idea here is to get the crease of your hip parallel to or below your knee level. So go ahead and stand up one more time, and show them what happens if you push your knees forward first. So now that was not a good squat. So she pushed her knees forward first. The first thing that should move is the hips. The hips go back, the knees go out. She sinks down, she comes back up, and that's a good squat. Then turn back, face the camera one more time. So one of the common mistakes that we see is buckling or collapsing of the knees, especially as the person is coming back up. So let's show them really quickly what to not do. So Kim is in the bottom position of squat. She's going to come back up, and her knees are going to collapse in as she rises. We want to prevent that. So think about pushing your knees out the entire time. So as Kim sits down, she pushes her hips back, her knees go out, and you sort of track. You don't have to worry so much about them not going beyond your toes, but try not to have them go too far beyond your toes. A little bit's okay. But definitely you don't want them to be going in. They should be staying, tracking right above your feet, right above your ankles the whole time. So the more vertical you can keep your shins, the better. And then go ahead and stand back up, and knees stay out the whole time. So that's how you keep tension on the hips and on the butt, which is what we're trying to do here. And it's easy to allow your body to just do whatever it wants to do to get from the bottom to the top and from the top to the bottom. But the point here with Booty42 is to keep the tension on the glutes as much as possible. And you'll feel, it's easier to feel that at the top. So you really want to think about, go ahead and sit down. And then as Kim comes back up, as her hips near end range when she's getting to the top, you really want to squeeze your butt to push your hips through. So one more time, just show them that she sits down, looks good, knees go out, she squeezes her butt, pushes her hips through to complete the movement. Is there anything else that we should show them? Basically, feet are parallel-ish. Turn your toes out a little bit if you need to. If you need to put something up underneath your heels because they won't stay down, that's fine, but then we'll work on ankle range of motion because that's going to be an issue for you. You want to think about keeping your shins as vertical as you possibly can. So think about hips back first before the knees break. So instead of pushing your knees forward, hips go back. keep your back flat, so try not to like overextend, overarch, or over-round in the bottom position. A legit squat is when the crease of your hip is at or below your knee level. So just show them from the side. Just turn to the side. So as Kim sits back, hips go back, her knees stay out. So she's in a full squat, and the crease of the hip is below the knee. She could even be up a little bit higher, and that would still be okay. But I think that's good enough. If you have questions, just holler. We will help you out more later.